Hello, everyone. We're back with a bonus question. Martin, we just finished a very compelling segment about the atomized network and how we are trying to get disparate systems to attempt to work together in order to fill in the gaps that they all present because none of these systems currently speak to each other or like to work together. So my bonus question to you is, one of the last things that you said was, we know the system is broken. And you mentioned a whole bunch of names of companies that did particular things and very well. But because we all know it's broken, that's different than getting everyone to sit down at the table and talk about it. And if we don't talk about it, we can't solve it. So how do we start getting people to sit down and talk about, hey, you know what? We got gaps. How do we do that?
Well, that's a great question. There's no shortage of people who are willing to talk about it. And we see initiatives like Zero Trust pop out and things like that. There are vendor forums, like the Cloud Threat Alliance and things like that. There's all sorts of ways to bring people together. The problem that you usually get into is architecture is extremely hard to evolve once it's cemented in place. So an issue that you really have is getting people to make fundamental change to how their technology goes about doing its thing. Because, as I like to say, the thing that has the most inertia in the universe after a black hole is a piece of software that has one paying customer. So it's hugely problematic to undo architectural choices from the earliest days of a software project, and that just cascades. So if you're on an inappropriate architecture, like you're still doing appliance-based deep packet inspection, for example, there are applications of that where it's still going to be very applicable, for point defense, essentially, for defending high-value targets that have where you can decrypt the traffic and get the device in the right place to do its job. That's a great place to do that sort of thing. But like trying to broadly reform that approach to doing things, well, people are still making billions of dollars doing it. So try to tell them they're wrong. The capitalists would say they're not wrong. Now the business might be declining, but it's still a good business. So this is kind of one of those things where it's hard to get people to make progress because A, there's a lot of competitive concerns around the table. B, there's a lot of sunk cost in the architectures, and the amount of cost that it would take to reform would be massive, right? So you've got this kind of innovator's dilemma thing that you get stuck in, and it's so common it has a name, right? Innovator's dilemma. So yeah, I think the best ways that we've come up to are these kind of industry standards groups where allows people to that are created to foster conversation and cooperation. But reforming architectures that are kind of falling by the wayside, the way that usually happens is you have the upstart innovators pop up, and then you see these kind of lurching market shifts where all of a sudden you have this massive adoption. Palo Alto was a great example of that. They led this transition to next generation firewalls, which was a huge deal, and obviously they became a huge company on its back. Now we're into another wave of innovation, and we'll see who the real leaders turn out to be. Hopefully we're one of them. We'll see.
Well said. Thank you again, Martin.
Thanks very much, Jeff.